Eternity's Shadow by E. Thomas Canton. Copyright 2024 E. Thomas Canton. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopy, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without written consent from the publisher. Credits. Voices by MRF.com. Sound effects from www.freesoundslibrary.com. And additional sound effects from www.zapsplat.com and pixabay.com. Music by www.zapsplat.com and IB Audio.
We perceive the divine in what we call miracles. This perception inflicts a devastating cost because it is incorrect. But we choose to believe because we need to. Brooke Adams. Octavia Wilde. She appeared like a mirage, coming into focus as the sun rose behind the cemetery hill. My sleepy eyes peered through the tall grass as the image before me came into sharp relief. She knelt down, placing a single rose on a grave. Wow, she looks like. I bolted up and stared. That's impossible. I thought this while also acknowledging that I had been mistaken in thinking it. Of course, it's not impossible, only improbable. Get off your butt and go over before she leaves, stupid. I rose, circling around behind her, still unsure if what I had seen. As I approached, I realized that, unlike the wild tall grass on the rest of the hill, this grave looked well trimmed. I looked around the cemetery. Every gravestone on the hill had crumbled from years of neglect, except that one. The fresh rose glistened in the morning dew as it lay on the ground. Facing away from me, toward the grave, her pale hand reached down and picked up a second rose. It had withered enough for me to conclude that she had placed it there the previous morning. My heart sank when I realized that this must be Alice's last resting place. The grave had become a lasting monument of her undying devotion to the mother she loved so much. I rallied as much courage as I could before I spoke, but the effort proved useless. After everything I had been through, I had no courage left. I said the only words that came to me. "Hello, Fen." She turned. The rose crashed to the ground. Her face drained of all color. Not the reaction I expected. I saw the name on the tombstone, and it didn't belong to Alice. The name carved into the granite belonged to me. I could now feel my face draining of all color. I looked up at Fen, shocked. The look on my face caused confusion on hers. That's not me. I couldn't think of what else to say. What? I came here through the platform we built.
The platform? How do you?
She stopped and searched my eyes. Fen examined every tiny detail of my face. Her eyes held boundless curiosity, cautious optimism, and the skepticism of a scientist. She pointed to an area below the neck and to the left.
"Show me here,"
she said, staring at that same place on me. I tugged my shirt down to make that area visible. Her hand shot up to cover her mouth as her eyes looked up at mine. "What?"
"It's not there,"
she said.
"The bullet wound."
Bullet wound. Someone shot me. A man dressed in black appeared out of nowhere, pulling back his jacket to reveal a sidearm. When he saw me, he took a step back.
"I'm all right,"
she said. "She has a bodyguard." "What is she, rich?" I saw a black limousine waiting for her. Okay. So she's rich. We stared at one another. Neither of us knew what to say. In retrospect, hello didn't seem appropriate. Struggling to find my words, I refocused. Looking behind her, I noticed something on the tombstone. Beloved wife. Wife? I looked at Fen's hands. She wore a golden wedding band. My eyes shot up to meet hers.
"I've never taken it off since,"
she said as she looked behind her at the grave marker.
"You're not her."
No, I'm not. But I need your help.
I need yours too. You said that we built a platform.
I nodded. She stopped and looked around.
If we built a platform, then where am I?
I looked at my grave. Fen looked behind her.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. No. I'm sorry you lost her. She, Brooke, once told me that everything happens for a reason. If you did, in fact, build a platform, and I don't know how else you could be here in front of me.
Her expressions spoke of the struggle inside her. Fen looked at her bodyguard. He returned her look with one of indecision. Fen shook her head.
We are running out of time.
She looked back at me. Fen paused, becoming almost immobile, as she weighed her words.
I don't like it, but I can't ignore the fact you're here. And that makes you a chance I have to take. You need to come with me. Please.
The tinted windows were cool, but not as cool as the heated seats. I'd never been in a limousine. We sat in the back seat, trying to avoid staring at each other. We both had so much to ask, but never said a word. Why were they running out of time? Were things here worse than I knew? A short time later, we pulled up in front of a 40-story glass monolith. Fen apologized, but said the underground parking remained flooded. You work here?
Yeah, I own it.
Wow,
Can you please wait in the lobby for me? I'll catch up.
she said. The driver opened my door, and I walked into the lobby. That simple act seemed to cause a stir. People buzzed about between themselves, while looking at me as if I was a Sasquatch or something. It then hit me. I hadn't bathed in some time, and I had just slept in my clothes in a cemetery. In short, I was smelly and homeless. Ignoring them, I turned to see if she followed me. Instead, I saw her speaking to her driver for some time. At one point, his jacket failed to mask his sidearm. With no undue fuss, Fen pulled it back over his holster to hide the weapon. As she did, he looked at me, dead in the eyes. Fen ushered me into a mirrored elevator. She placed a key into the control panel beside the unlit button that marked the 13th floor. The button lit up. Fen pressed it. It had been the only button on the panel that required a special key. What's on the 13th floor?
You already know. You've seen the state our world is in. The climate's gone insane. We already suffered through 3 major pandemics in as many years. Close to 700 million dead. Millions more are dying every year. Starvation, disease, war, storms, flooding. It's one disaster after another, after another. We don't have the resources or the economy to delay the inevitable anymore. Brooke once told me that desperation is the fastest road to a mistake. But we are so desperate. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. I need to trust you. Can I?
Yes.
I pray to God what you told me is true.
The elevator door slid open to reveal a small desk where an armed military guard sat. Fen took out her identification and showed it. The guard looked at me, and the blood drained from his face.
She's with me.
Ma'am, she still needs clearance.
Do you recognize her?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was I on this world?
Then you know she doesn't need any clearance. I'll take full responsibility.
My Fen would never have displayed this kind of confidence.
Yes, ma'am.
I followed her to the end of the hall, where Fen punched in her code, careful to hide it from my view. The doors opened. Before us, among a laboratory full of buzzing technicians, stood a half-built CCP. A cloud of silence fell onto the technicians as they saw me standing over them. Their eyes bored holes in me with so many unasked questions. Fen ignored their reactions and got straight to the point.
We can't survive here much longer,
she said.
That machine is the only chance to save my people. Brooke, my Brooke, had the equations to finish it. She died before she could.
She didn't leave notes, I asked.
She did, but they disappeared after she died, and I don't know how to finish it without them. You said you already built a platform.
It's gone. I'm a prisoner here as much as you.
But you built a successful platform once. You can do it again. I can supply you with whatever personnel or resources you need. Can you help us?
I looked at the incomplete CCP that squatted in the middle of the lab. All the people stared up at me. They expected me to save them. I fumbled with the USB in my pocket and looked at Fen's pleading expression. She wasn't my Fen, but I still felt the compulsion to make the world right for her. I pulled the USB from my pocket. Yes, I can, I said, holding it up for her. We spent the next 2 days in her private office going over my equations from the USB. After seeing my work, Fen almost broke down into tears. The ability to save her people now lay within her grasp. She believed I came to this earth to save them, even if I didn't realize it, or believe it myself. And I didn't. But I'm glad I could help her. I just never believed in destiny or prophecy. Still don't. When I examined my USB, I discovered that my gizmo thingy had kept a log of all the CCP's activity. It never occurred to me that Fen would write this into its code. I mean, it made perfect sense she did. And I felt like an idiot for not realizing it sooner. The log included the last door the minister had used. I could still find him, but I needed to build the platform first. And this time, I had unlimited resources and a workforce. Within a week, Fen got me my official identification and security clearance. She reactivated her Brooke's old ones. It avoided the inevitable avalanche of background checks that would all turn up a suspicious amount of nothing. Having me sequestered away in a safe house for fear of another assassination attempt explained my 2-year disappearance. Now this meant... Wait a minute. I'd been assassinated. Bullet wound. Wow. Okay. I have to deal with that later. Anyway, this meant everyone had to believe that Fen and I were married. She bought me a wedding ring, new clothes, and I had to move in with her. Fen and the other Brooke had owned a small cottage with a postage stamp for a front lawn, and an English garden in the backyard. Despite being quite wealthy, they didn't want an enormous mansion, or mausoleum, as Fen called it. Those days, however, she lived alone in a luxury penthouse condo. She still owned the cottage, but felt she couldn't live there anymore now that her wife had passed. I slept in the guest bedroom in the biggest, comfiest bed I'd ever known. My head sunk into the cool pillow as I pulled the comforter over me. I liked this, but I remade the bed so that my head lay at the foot. Now, I could stare at the stars out the window. 2 a.m. Eustama demoma metromazi par val titoma curicato. The phrase awakened my synapses and demanded my attention. I walked into the main room where I'd seen what Fen called a personal computer. I liked this world. People could buy their own computers. I didn't know how to spell the words, so I stated them into the microphone. The computer made grinding noises for an uncomfortable amount of time. It changed the alphabet into something that looked strange, but familiar. The words were in an ancient language that the computer called Hellenic. The only language I knew. I am speaking now. If I spoke those words like the doctor said, the memory of Hellenic must still be in my head. According to the computer, Hellenic had been an unused language on this earth for centuries. So I needed to find a world where people still spoke it. My blood raced. But when the translation into this language appeared on the screen, my blood froze. The translation read, "Stop, Mommy, you're scaring me. Please put down the knife."
What are you doing up so late?
I jumped out of my skin. Fen tried not to laugh.
Sorry.
It's okay, I said, calming my heart. She looked at the screen.
What's this?
I sighed and looked up at her blue, brown eyes. Fen had brown eyes in this universe. Curious. Anyway, I told her about what the doctor had told me. Soon, I related my adventures up to meeting her on the hill. She made us both some apple cider, and we sat on the sofa to continue. I wanted to know how she got rich. Fen explained that she and her Brooke had founded a computer company that became a major success. Her Brooke had insisted they use their profits to expand into all kinds of research. One success led to another. Fen told me they even collected a sample of dark matter. So many questions buzzed in my head. I made her promise she would let me see the report on their dark matter analysis. Fen smiled that unfamiliar, but still familiar smile and agreed. As she moved closer, I inhaled the slightest aroma of lavender. It had always been my Fen's favorite perfume as well. She peppered me with questions about my world and my Fen. Around 2:30 we fell asleep. Just before 3 in the morning I heard footsteps creaking across the floor in the living room. It sounded like someone pacing. Fen spoke in hushed tones, but because of my sleepy condition, or the quietness of her voice, I couldn't make out the words. I heard no one reply, so I assumed she had been speaking on the phone. This late. Had there been an emergency at work? Who could she be talking to? The thought no sooner surfaced in my mind when it submerged and I drifted off again. The next morning, I half slept, walked into the living room to find Fen sitting cross-legged on the floor with her hands on her knees, palms facing upward. A light incense burned on the counter. "What are you doing?" She opened one eye at me and smiled.
Meditating.
"Is that a religious thing you do here?"
Not really. It helps me clear my mind.
"Oh,
So, you hungry?
a little I suppose."
I have cereal in the cupboard. There's also some pancake mix if you're interested, or you could fry up some bacon and eggs.
I'm not sure I'm hungry enough to actually cook anything. Maybe a little cereal.
Help yourself to anything in the fridge as well. We've got orange juice and milk.
Thanks,
Am I talking too much?
she asked. No,
Well, you seem to leave the talking to me most of the time.
sorry. I'm still getting my footing here, but on my earth. People like us had to hide from the church. Maybe I'd be more open if I lived on an earth like this. You can go into a church and get married. My Fen and I could never do that. Not in a million years. They'd arrest us and throw us in prison.
I thought God was love. If that's true, then how can you treat people like that and still consider yourself a good person?
I don't know. But they do. I mean, everyone here just takes for granted that you and I are married. It's a freedom I'm not quite used to yet. So, who were you talking to that late last night? Is there a problem with the project?
Last night,
She let the question hang in the air.
I went straight to bed, same time as you.
Thought I heard you on the phone.
No? Not me. It's a pleasant building, but it's old.
She said.
It creaks and moans more than my Grandma Mary. The noises don't even register with me anymore.
Okay. The subject got dropped, as I wasn't certain I hadn't dreamed it. On the drive to the office, we stopped at a florist where Fen went in, emerging moments later with a single rose. The second stop we made took us to the cemetery hill.
Wait here.
She said as she got out of the car. I watched through the tinted window as she walked away up the grassy hill. I turned to the driver. Every morning. He looked at me in the rearview mirror.
For 2 years.
He said. What happened to her? I asked. The driver focused his attention on me. His stare made me feel like I had gotten into trouble for swearing on my old earth. Someone shot her, right? Who? He hesitated.
That's something you should take up with Miss Adams.
The car door opened and Fen returned to her seat. As the bodyguard opened the doors for us to enter Fen's building, she turned to me with a smile.
Time to save the world.
With that, I followed her into the secure laboratory with the CCP. She introduced me to my new team. Well, new to me. I entered to greetings of, "Good to see you again. I'm happy you're okay, and we all thought you were dead." I assumed at some point that Fen would tell me who all these people were. For now, I needed to bring them up to speed on how to finish the platform. Remember, I built the first platform with only Fen. And now I led over 4 dozen scientists and engineers in a multi-billion-dollar corporate government project. I looked over at Fen, who stood near the front of the stage by the side entrance. She smiled. I smiled back, took a deep breath, and looked my audience straight in their eyes. No more hesitation. No more doubt. I knew what to do. And they would understand that. So, once my equations appeared on screen, they settled down to see if, together, we could save their people. It took 3 weeks to brief them on all my equations and answer their questions. By the end of those 3 weeks, everyone knew what they were to contribute in their groups, subgroups, and as individuals. That night Fen and I stayed up talking until almost 3 in the morning, beginning a nightly ritual that would last for as long as we were on that earth. As I smiled at her stories, I wondered if I saw this Fen as her own person, or had I refused to let go of my own Fen? I didn't know, but I suspected these same questions were going through her head too, and had been since we met. Still, I couldn't help myself. I leaned over and kissed her. In the morning, we had another ritual: florist, cemetery, and work. This morning would be different. Fen snuggled up beside me in the back of the limousine. As the sun rose over the city on this morning, all the pain and struggling of this world faded. The florist receded into the distance. You passed the flower shop.
I thought we'd go out for breakfast instead,
she said, taking my hand. We enjoyed a long breakfast at a Waffle House. In reality, it consisted more of us smiling like a couple of goofs at one another rather than actual eating. A traditional oak desk sat in the middle of her office. 3 of the walls were empty, devoid of anything that could be a distraction, while one large window comprised the 4th wall. A glass door stood in the middle of the window that led to a large balcony. I noticed a small desk and chair on the balcony. Fen and I went over the equipment requests that I had put in to help finish the platform quicker. We made our way through the equipment requests. A surprising number of requisitions were replacements for damaged parts. How they got damaged became the subject of much speculation among the government agencies involved in our project. Fen's secretary called her into the outer office. As the door opened, I saw her bodyguard hand her a file folder. As Fen took it, she looked over at me while closing the door. A moment later, she returned with the file folder. I watched as Fen circled around her desk, opened the top right drawer, placed the file inside, and locked it. She returned to the forms in front of us. So, what's in the folder? I asked, trying to make the question sound like casual conversation. It didn't work.
Oh, nothing. Bookkeeping.
I watched her for a moment. Can I ask you something?
Sure,
Fen said, turning to me. Sensing my hesitation, she tried to reassure me.
it's okay. Whatever it is. You only have to ask.
What happened to me? I mean the other. You're Brooke? Fen hesitated.
You don't have to worry about that. You're safe. No one is going to kill you.
That wasn't what I asked. Why would you say that if you weren't worried about it?
I only said that to get you the proper security clearances to work on the platform.
Who shot her? I asked. Fen took a deep breath.
No one knows. He or she got away. Please, I don't want to relive it.
I couldn't believe I considered she would do such a thing. But I reminded myself that this Fen was a stranger to me. And I still didn't know her well. If she had been behind what happened to the other Brooke, why would she lay a rose on her grave every morning? That wasn't guilt. Just the opposite. In fact, I tried to convince myself that it must have been her bodyguard. But the hollow pit growing in my stomach warned otherwise. There had to be a reason I wasn't told what happened to her.